Hi, soul igniting story family. Get ready, because today we're bringing you a tender, soul stirring tale that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. Let's begin. What would you do if you discovered the person cleaning your home was actually stealing your billion-dollar secrets? Colin Drayton lay motionless in his king-size bed, his eyes barely cracked open, watching in frozen horror as his new maid's hands moved with calculated precision through his private belongings. The woman he'd trusted to clean his Silicon Valley mansion was systematically rifling through his most confidential documents. Have you ever hired someone you thought you could trust, only to discover they had hidden motives? In the dim light of his master bedroom, Ana Marquez, the quiet, humble woman from El Paso who'd seemed so grateful for the job, was pulling out cash, confidential papers, and something that made Colin's blood run cold. An encrypted USB drive containing Triton Technologies' most valuable artificial intelligence algorithms, worth over $2 billion. This wasn't just theft. This was corporate espionage at the highest level. Colin forced himself to remain perfectly still, every muscle in his body screaming to jump up and confront her. But his billionaire instincts, the same ones that had built his tech empire from nothing, told him to wait, to watch, to learn exactly what he was dealing with. The woman who had cleaned his floors for barely a week was now unplugging security devices around his room. She knew exactly where his hidden compartments were located. She moved with the confidence of someone who had studied his home's layout extensively. Do you know that feeling when your gut tells you something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Colin had been feeling that way about Ana for days. Missing items that reappeared later. Furniture slightly out of place. Documents that seemed to have been shuffled through. Now he understood why. Ana stuffed the stolen materials into her apron pockets, her eyes darting toward the door as if checking for witnesses. But she had no idea that the man she thought was sleeping had built his entire fortune on being 3 steps ahead of everyone else. If you ever wonder how the ultra-wealthy protect themselves from betrayal, smash that like button, because this story will shock you. What Colin discovered next would expose a web of deception that reached far beyond one rogue employee. As Ana moved toward his bedside table, Colin's mind raced. This woman wasn't some desperate cleaner looking for quick cash. The way she navigated security systems, knew exactly where to look, understood the value of what she was stealing. This was professional, planned, targeted. His company, Triton Technologies, wasn't just any startup. It was one of Silicon Valley's most innovative firms, developing AI systems that could revolutionize cybersecurity forever. The USB drive Ana had just pocketed contained algorithms that tech giants would kill for. Have you ever felt completely violated in your own home? That moment when you realize the person you welcomed into your most private space has been betraying you from day one? Colin was living that nightmare in real time. The 42-year-old CEO had survived hostile takeovers, corporate sabotage attempts, and cutthroat competition that had destroyed lesser men. But lying there, pretending to sleep while watching his trust get shattered, felt more vulnerable than any boardroom battle he'd ever fought. Ana took one final look around the room, ensuring everything appeared undisturbed. She had no idea that her careful performance was being observed by the very man she was betraying. This is what happens when you have everything to lose and someone close to you decides they want a piece of it. Colin had built walls around his business empire, but somehow the threat had walked right through his front door with a resume and a smile. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Those stolen algorithms represented years of research, millions in development costs, and technology that could give any competitor an unfair advantage in the AI arms race that was defining Silicon Valley's future. But Colin Drayton didn't become a billionaire by panicking. Even as his world shifted beneath him, his strategic mind was already calculating his next moves. Should he confront Ana immediately, call security, or continue this deadly game of cat and mouse to see how deep this betrayal went? What Ana didn't know was that she had just declared war on one of the tech world's most brilliant tacticians. And Colin was about to show her exactly why underestimating him was the biggest mistake of her life. But to understand how Colin ended up in this nightmare, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when he was just another entrepreneur with big dreams and a small garage. Back to when he first learned that success always comes with a target on your back. To understand how Colin Drayton became the target of such elaborate corporate espionage, you need to know what he built and what he had to lose. 20 years earlier, Colin was just another college dropout with a crazy idea and a borrowed garage in Palo Alto. While his Stanford classmates were landing safe corporate jobs, Colin was surviving on ramen noodles and coding 18-hour days, convinced that artificial intelligence would revolutionize how businesses protect themselves from cyber threats. Most people thought he was delusional. His own parents begged him to get a real job. But Colin saw something others missed. The internet was becoming humanity's nervous system, and someone needed to build the antibodies. Fast forward 2 decades, and that garage startup had become Triton Technologies, a cybersecurity and AI powerhouse that protected everyone from Fortune 500 companies to government agencies. Colin's net worth had crossed the $3 billion mark, making him one of Silicon Valley's most influential figures. But success at that level comes with a price most people never consider. Colin's sprawling estate in the hills overlooking Palo Alto was more than just a home. It was a fortress. 15,000 square feet of cutting-edge architecture, with smart home technology that could have powered a small city. Every window was bulletproof, every entry point monitored. The property itself sat on 12 acres of meticulously landscaped grounds, surrounded by walls that were as beautiful as they were impenetrable. Yet for all its grandeur, the mansion felt empty. Colin's divorce had been finalized 18 months ago. His ex-wife had taken half his liquid assets and moved to New York, claiming she couldn't compete with his company for his attention. Maybe she was right. Building an empire requires sacrifices, and Colin had sacrificed more than most. His 2 children, now 24 and 26, had their own lives across the country. They called on holidays and birthdays, but the conversations fell hollow. Success had given Colin everything he'd ever wanted except the things that actually mattered. Running a household of this magnitude required an army. Colin employed a head of security, 2 full-time gardeners, a chef who came 3 days a week, a pool maintenance crew, and a rotating staff of cleaners and maintenance workers. Each person had access to different areas of his private world. That was the paradox Colin lived with daily. The wealthier he became, the more people he needed to trust with his personal life. And trust in Silicon Valley was the most dangerous currency of all. The tech world was built on paranoia disguised as innovation. Competitors hired private investigators to dig through executives' trash. Former employees sold trade secrets to the highest bidder. Corporate espionage wasn't just common. It was an accepted cost of doing business. Colin had heard the horror stories at industry events. A rival CEO whose personal assistant was secretly recording board meetings. A startup founder whose housekeeper had been photographing confidential documents for months. Another billionaire who discovered his chef was poisoning his food on behalf of business partners trying to force him out of a merger. These weren't urban legends. They were cautionary tales shared over expensive whiskey at private clubs, reminders that success made you a target in ways most people never considered. Comment below if you think money makes you more vulnerable or more secure, because Colin was about to learn that wealth creates problems you never see coming. His daily routine reflected this constant tension between needing help and maintaining security. Every morning, Colin reviewed overnight security reports while his coffee brewed. He personally approved anyone who entered his property, no matter how mundane their purpose. Background checks, references, trial periods. Colin had learned to treat his home like a corporate office where the wrong hire could cost him everything. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd built a company that protected other people's secrets, yet his own life required constant vigilance against the very threats his technology was designed to prevent. Triton Technologies occupied a gleaming 40-story tower in downtown San Jose, but Colin spent most of his time in the penthouse office that overlooked the entire Silicon Valley. From that perch, he could see the headquarters of every major tech company that had either tried to acquire Triton or steal its innovations. The artificial intelligence algorithms his company developed weren't just software. They were digital weapons capable of predicting and preventing cyber attacks before they happened. Governments paid hundreds of millions for access to Triton systems. The company's most advanced AI could analyze patterns in data that human analysts would miss, identifying threats that existed only as possibilities. That technology made Colin wealthy beyond imagination. It also made him a target for anyone desperate enough to try stealing it. His personal net worth fluctuated between $2 and $4 billion, depending on Triton's stock price. But Colin had learned that paper wealth meant nothing if you couldn't trust the people around you. Money bought security systems and bodyguards, but it couldn't buy peace of mind. The mansion staff quarters were located in a separate wing, complete with their own kitchen and living areas. Colin had designed it that way deliberately, creating physical distance between his private spaces and the people who worked for him. But even with those boundaries, household employees needed access to his bedroom, office, and personal areas where his most sensitive information lived. That's where the real vulnerability existed. Colin kept multiple safes throughout the house, each containing different levels of classified information. The master bedroom safe held emergency cash, personal documents, and backup drives containing Triton's most valuable intellectual property. Those drives were his insurance policy. If something happened to the company's main servers, the technology that defined his empire lived in that bedroom safe. He'd assumed that level of security was overkill. Corporate espionage happened in boardrooms and server farms, not in billionaire bedrooms while the owner slept. That assumption was about to cost him everything. Then everything changed when his longtime housekeeper quit, without warning, leaving Colin scrambling to find someone new who could handle the unique demands of maintaining a tech mogul's private world. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning that would change Colin's life forever. "Mr. Drayton, this is Patricia from Elite Domestic Services. We have the perfect candidate for your household position." Colin had been without consistent help for 3 weeks since his previous housekeeper, Maria, had abruptly resigned to care for her sick mother in Mexico. The timing couldn't have been worse. Triton was in the middle of a crucial product launch, and Colin's schedule was packed with investor meetings and congressional testimony about AI regulation. Managing a 15,000-square-foot mansion while running a billion-dollar company wasn't sustainable, even for someone with Colin's work ethic. "Tell me about her," Colin said, reviewing quarterly reports while balancing his phone against his shoulder. "Ana Marquez, 28 years old, originally from El Paso. She's been working in domestic service for 6 years, with excellent references from 3 previous employers. She's detail-oriented, discreet, and available to start immediately." Elite Domestic Services specialized in high-profile placements. They understood that clients like Colin needed more than just cleaning. They needed people who could maintain absolute confidentiality about everything they saw and heard. When Anna arrived at her interview the following morning, Colin's first impression was exactly what Patricia had promised. She appeared nervous but eager, wearing a simple black dress and carrying a worn leather portfolio that suggested someone who took the opportunity seriously. Anna was petite, maybe 5'4", with dark hair pulled back in a professional bun. Her English carried a slight Texas accent, and she spoke softly, often looking down at her hands when answering questions. Everything about her demeanor suggested humility and respect. "I understand this is a unique position," Anna said during their conversation. "I've worked for successful families before, but never someone with your level of prominence. I want you to know that discretion is extremely important to me." Colin appreciated her directness. Too many candidates either acted starstruck by his wealth or pretended it didn't matter. Anna seemed to understand that working for a tech mogul required a different level of professionalism. Her references were solid, if unremarkable. A doctor's family in Austin had employed her for 2 years. A small business owner in Houston had trusted her with their home for 18 months. A retired couple in Dallas had written a glowing recommendation about her reliability and attention to detail. None of her previous employers had Colin's net worth or security concerns, but they all emphasized the same qualities. Anna was trustworthy, hardworking, and invisible in the best possible way. "What made you want to move to California?" Colin asked, studying her resume. "My cousin lives in San Francisco," Anna explained. "She's been encouraging me to come out here for better opportunities. When this position became available, it seemed like the perfect chance for a fresh start." The story felt authentic. Millions of people moved to California chasing dreams and better opportunities. Anna's modest background and limited experience with ultra-wealthy clients might actually be an advantage. She wouldn't have preconceived notions about how billionaires lived. Colin offered her a 6-month trial period, standard for all household staff. Anna's face lit up with genuine gratitude. "Thank you so much, Mr. Drayton. You won't regret this decision." Looking back, Colin would remember those words with bitter irony. Anna's first week on the job reinforced his positive initial impression. She arrived punctually every morning at 8 o'clock, worked efficiently throughout the house, and finished her tasks without needing supervision. She was respectful but not overly familiar, maintaining appropriate boundaries while still being personable. Colin barely saw her most days. She had a key to enter through the staff entrance and knew to avoid his office and master suite during business hours. When they did cross paths, Anna was always polite and professional. "Good morning, Mr. Drayton. I'll be working in the West Wing today if you need anything." Her English was better than he'd initially assessed. She understood complex instructions about caring for expensive furnishings and seemed comfortable operating the house's sophisticated systems. But by the end of her second week, Colin began noticing things. Have you ever had that gut feeling about someone? That inexplicable sense that something isn't quite right, even when you can't identify what's bothering you. Small items in his office seemed slightly displaced. Not missing, just moved. A pen that he always kept on the left side of his desk would be on the right. Documents he'd left in a specific order would be shuffled differently. His laptop, which he always closed at a particular angle, would be positioned just slightly off. Initially, Colin dismissed these observations as paranoia. Running a cybersecurity company made you hyper-aware of potential threats, sometimes to an unhealthy degree. Anna was probably just being thorough in her cleaning. But the incidents kept happening. One morning, Colin found his home office door unlocked when he was certain he'd secured it the night before. Another day, books on his private bookshelf were arranged differently than he remembered. The most troubling incident occurred during Anna's third week. Colin kept a small amount of emergency cash in his bedroom nightstand, about $3,000 in hundreds and fifties. One evening, he noticed the bills were facing different directions than he'd left them. The money wasn't missing, but someone had definitely handled it. Colin's instincts, honed by 2 decades of surviving Silicon Valley's cutthroat environment, were screaming warnings. Every successful entrepreneur learns to trust those instincts, even when the evidence seems insignificant. Anna continued performing her duties flawlessly. She never asked inappropriate questions, never seemed overly curious about his business, never lingered in areas where she didn't belong. If Colin hadn't been specifically watching for problems, he might never have noticed anything unusual. But he was watching, and what he saw was a pattern of subtle probing disguised as conscientious cleaning. Comment below if you've ever had that gut feeling about someone, because Colin's instincts were about to save his empire from complete destruction. The breaking point came during Anna's 4th week, when Colin discovered that his private study security system had been briefly disabled during the previous night. The system logged a 12-minute window when the motion sensors went offline, then automatically reset. Colin reviewed the timestamp. Anna had been the only person in the house during that period. That's when Colin realized he wasn't dealing with a curious employee or a petty thief looking for quick cash. Someone with Anna's limited background shouldn't have known how to temporarily disable sophisticated security systems without triggering alarms. This was professional. This was planned. And this was about to become very dangerous. Colin's mind worked like the artificial intelligence systems his company created, analyzing patterns, identifying anomalies, and calculating probabilities based on seemingly insignificant data points. The security system incident wasn't an accident. Someone with Anna's background shouldn't have possessed the technical knowledge to temporarily disable motion sensors without triggering backup protocols. That kind of expertise required training that didn't appear anywhere on her resume. Over the next few days, Colin began what he privately called Project Verification, a systematic analysis of Anna's behavior patterns using the same methodical approach that had built his empire. First, he installed additional monitoring systems that Anna would know existed, pressure sensors under carpets in key areas, micro cameras disguised as decorative objects, software that tracked every digital device in the house, logging when they were accessed and by whom. Colin had learned this level of surveillance from painful experience. 3 years earlier, a Triton employee had attempted to sell company secrets to Chinese competitors. The FBI investigation had taught Colin that corporate espionage was far more sophisticated and common than most people realized. The employee had seemed loyal for 18 months before the betrayal was discovered. Background checks, polygraph tests, and security clearances hadn't prevented the breach. Only careful observation and digital monitoring had exposed the theft. Now Colin was applying those same techniques to his personal life. The results were disturbing. Anna's daily routine showed patterns that didn't match normal household cleaning. She spent significantly more time in Colin's private office than necessary for dusting and vacuuming. Her movements through the house followed paths that gave her access to areas containing sensitive materials. Most telling was her timing. Anna consistently worked in Colin's personal spaces when she knew he was away from the property. During his Washington, D.C. trip for congressional testimony, she'd spent over 3 hours in his master bedroom, far longer than required for standard maintenance. Colin's research into corporate espionage tactics revealed how common domestic infiltration had become. A Fortune 500 CEO in Seattle had discovered his housekeeper photographing confidential documents for foreign competitors. A pharmaceutical executive in Boston had found listening devices hidden by his personal chef. An aerospace contractor in Colorado had caught his landscaper installing surveillance equipment disguised as irrigation sensors. These weren't isolated incidents. They represented a new front in corporate warfare, where companies targeted executives' personal lives to access information that traditional hacking couldn't reach. The most successful infiltrations involved patient, long-term operations. Agents would establish seemingly legitimate employment, build trust over months or years, then gradually extract valuable intelligence. The best operatives never stole anything initially. They photographed documents, copied data, and gathered information that could be analyzed later. Colin realized that Anna fit this profile perfectly. Her references, while positive, came from employers who couldn't verify her technical abilities or access to sensitive information. Her previous positions had lasted exactly the right amount of time to establish credibility, without raising questions about why she'd left. Even her personal story, moving to California for better opportunities, provided perfect cover for relocating to target a specific individual. Colin's investigation revealed other concerning details. Elite Domestic Services, the agency that had recommended Anna, had been established only 18 months earlier. Their client list included several high-profile tech executives, giving them perfect access to Silicon Valley's most valuable targets. The agency's owner, Patricia, had previously worked for a private investigation firm specializing in corporate intelligence gathering. Her transition to domestic placement services seemed suspicious once Colin understood the connection between household access and information theft. But the most damning evidence came from Colin's enhanced surveillance systems. Late one evening, while Colin was supposedly attending a charity gala in San Francisco, he'd actually returned home early and parked down the street from his property. Using his security system's remote access, he watched Anna enter his master bedroom with tools that weren't part of standard cleaning supplies. She'd spent 47 minutes systematically searching areas that contained Colin's most sensitive materials. Her movements showed familiarity with security systems and evidence of previous reconnaissance. This wasn't random exploration. It was professional intelligence gathering. Anna photographed documents with a high-resolution camera, copied files from Colin's personal laptop, and examined contents of his bedroom safe during the brief window when she disabled his internal monitoring. The safe contained backup drives with Triton's most advanced AI algorithms, technology worth billions of dollars to the right buyer. Anna had photographed serial numbers, taken detailed pictures of the safe's locking mechanism, and documented the room's security layout. Colin watched his betrayal unfold in real time from his car, his hands gripping the steering wheel as years of paranoid preparation proved justified. This wasn't just theft. It was systematic corporate espionage targeting the core of his life's work. But Colin had survived 2 decades in Silicon Valley by making emotional decisions. Instead of confronting Anna immediately, he chose to gather more intelligence. If she was part of a larger operation, exposing her too early might alert her handlers and destroy evidence of the broader conspiracy. Colin's strategic mind was already calculating multiple scenarios. Who was Anna really working for? How much information had she already stolen? What was the ultimate objective of her mission? The answers to those questions would determine whether Colin was dealing with simple industrial espionage or something far more dangerous. Over the following week, Colin implemented what he called controlled exposure, deliberately leaving specific documents and information where Anna could access them, then tracking how that intelligence moved through whatever network she represented. Some of the materials Colin exposed were legitimate but outdated, real Triton documents that would seem valuable but contained technology that had been superseded by newer developments. Other materials were completely fabricated, designed to identify Anna's handlers when they attempted to verify or use the false information. Colin's cybersecurity expertise allowed him to embed digital fingerprints in everything Anna accessed, creating an electronic trail that would lead back to whoever was coordinating her activities. This cat-and-mouse game required Colin to maintain perfect composure, while Anna continued working in his home, cleaning his belongings and systematically betraying his trust every single day. The psychological pressure was unlike anything Colin had experienced in business. Boardroom battles and corporate negotiations felt simple compared to sharing his personal space with someone actively working to destroy his empire. But Colin had one crucial advantage that Anna couldn't have anticipated. His entire career had been built on staying 3 steps ahead of people trying to steal his innovations. Now he was going to use those same skills to destroy whoever had sent Anna into his life. The next phase of Colin's plan would require him to take the ultimate risk, making himself completely vulnerable to see exactly how far Anna's betrayal extended. Colin's plan was deceptively simple. Create the perfect opportunity for Anna to reveal her true intentions while maintaining plausible deniability if his suspicions proved wrong. The setup required precise timing and flawless execution. Colin chose a Thursday evening when Anna's schedule indicated she would be working late to prepare the house for his upcoming weekend business trip to Seattle. According to her routine, she would focus on his personal quarters during the evening hours when she believed he was occupied with conference calls. Colin spent the afternoon arranging what he privately called the honey trap, strategically positioning materials that would be irresistible to a corporate spy while appearing naturally placed to anyone with legitimate business in his bedroom. On his nightstand, he left a folder marked Project Prometheus, eyes only, containing what appeared to be Triton's next-generation AI development plans. The documents were real enough to pass initial scrutiny, but contained enough outdated information to prevent actual damage if stolen. Inside his bedroom safe, which Anna had already shown unusual interest in, Colin placed a new encrypted USB drive labeled Pentagon Contract, Final Specifications. The drive actually contained Colin's personal photos and music files, but the label would be impossible for any spy to ignore. Most importantly, Colin positioned himself where he could observe Anna's activities without being detected. His master bedroom featured a walk-in closet with a partially concealed entrance that provided a clear view of the room, while keeping him hidden in shadow. At 7:30 p.m., Colin announced loudly that he was exhausted from back-to-back investor calls and planned to turn early. He made sure Anna heard him complaining about jet lag from his recent East Coast travel, establishing the narrative that he would be sleeping deeply. Colin retreated to his bedroom, changed into pajamas, and arranged the covers to suggest he was lying in bed. Then he slipped into the closet, positioning himself behind a rack of suits where he could see everything while remaining completely hidden. The waiting was excruciating. Colin's heart hammered against his chest as he crouched in the darkness, straining to hear any sound from the hallway. Every small noise seemed amplified. The house's heating system cycling on, distant traffic from the valley below, the soft hum of electronic devices throughout the room. 23 minutes passed before Colin heard Anna's soft footsteps approaching down the hallway. She knocked gently on the bedroom door. "Mr. Drayton? I'm just checking if you need anything before I finish up downstairs." Colin forced his breathing to remain steady and deep, mimicking the rhythm of someone in deep sleep. He made no response. Anna waited nearly a full minute before trying again. "Mr. Drayton?" Her voice was slightly louder this time, testing whether he was truly unconscious. Still no response from Colin. The door handle turned slowly, almost silently. Anna's training in covert entry was evident in how carefully she opened the door, pausing between each small movement to listen for any change in Colin's breathing pattern. From his concealed position, Colin could see Anna's silhouette framed in the doorway. She stood motionless for at least 30 seconds, studying the figure supposedly sleeping in the bed, calculating the risk of proceeding with whatever she had planned. Finally, Anna stepped into the room. Her transformation was immediate and chilling. Gone was the nervous, humble woman who had interviewed for a housekeeping position. The person who entered Colin's bedroom moved with the confidence and precision of a trained operative. Anna pulled a small LED pen light from her pocket, covering it with her fingers to create just enough illumination for her work without waking a sleeping person. She approached Colin's nightstand with the deliberate care of someone who had rehearsed this exact scenario multiple times. Colin watched in frozen fascination as Anna opened the Project Prometheus folder he'd left as bait. She photographed each page with a high-resolution camera that definitely hadn't appeared on any housekeeping supply list. Her technique was professional, holding documents at optimal angles, ensuring proper lighting, working with the efficiency of someone who had done this countless times before. But Anna wasn't satisfied with the nightstand materials. She moved toward Colin's dresser, systematically searching through drawers with a method that revealed extensive knowledge of where wealthy executives typically hide sensitive materials. Anna found Colin's backup laptop computer, connecting a USB device that immediately began copying files. The data theft was happening in real time, just feet from where Colin lay hidden, and there was nothing he could do to stop it without revealing his awareness of Anna's true identity. From his closet hiding spot, Colin could hear Anna's quiet breathing as she worked. The sound was steady and controlled, not the nervous respiration of someone committing their first crime, but the calm efficiency of a professional who had done this before. Anna's next target was a bedroom safe. Colin's blood turned cold as he watched her approach the concealed wall safe that held his most sensitive materials. Anna pulled out a device that looked like a sophisticated electronic lockpick, connecting it to the safe's digital keypad. This wasn't random burglary. Anna had come prepared with specialized equipment designed to defeat high-end security systems. Her insertion into Colin's household had been planned with military precision, and tonight was obviously the culmination of weeks of careful preparation. The safe's lock clicked open. If you're on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button because this gets even crazier. Anna's hands moved through the safe's contents with practiced efficiency. She photographed financial documents, copied serial numbers from backup drives, and carefully examined every item before placing it exactly where she'd found it. But when Anna discovered the USB drive labeled Pentagon Contract, her entire body language changed. She held the device like she'd found the Holy Grail, turning it over repeatedly and photographing every angle before slipping it into a hidden pocket Colin hadn't even noticed in her clothing. Colin realized that Anna wasn't just stealing from him. She was conducting a sophisticated intelligence operation that had probably taken months to plan and execute. The level of preparation, equipment, and expertise suggested resources far beyond what any individual competitor could provide. This was bigger than corporate espionage. This was the kind of operation that governments conducted against high-value targets. Anna spent another 15 minutes in Colin's bedroom, methodically covering her tracks and ensuring everything appeared exactly as she'd found it. She disabled and re-enabled security sensors with equipment that shouldn't have been available to anyone outside of law enforcement or intelligence agencies. As Anna prepared to leave, Colin faced an impossible choice. Continue pretending to sleep and let her escape with what she believed were some of his most valuable secrets, or confront her immediately and risk alerting whoever had sent her. His strategic mind chose patience over impulse. Anna had just revealed the scope and sophistication of the threat against him. Now Colin needed to understand who was behind it and how deep the conspiracy went. But watching Anna walk out his bedroom with stolen materials felt like the longest minutes of Colin's life. Every instinct screamed at him to act, to confront the betrayal happening in his most private space. Instead, Colin remained hidden in his closet, counting Anna's footsteps as she moved down the hallway, listening as she returned downstairs to continue the pretense of normal housekeeping duties. What Colin saw next would change everything he thought he knew about trust, loyalty, and the price of success in Silicon Valley's most dangerous game. Colin remained frozen in his closet for another 20 minutes after Anna left his bedroom, his mind racing through the implications of what he'd just witnessed. The woman he'd trusted to clean his home had just conducted a professional intelligence operation that would have impressed federal agents. But Anna wasn't finished. Through the advanced monitoring system Colin had installed throughout his house, he could track Anna's movements as she continued what appeared to be normal cleaning duties downstairs. She vacuumed the living room, dusted furniture, and even loaded the dishwasher, maintaining perfect cover for her real activities. What Colin discovered through his hidden cameras over the next hour would redefine everything he understood about the threat against his empire. Anna moved through his house with a systematic approach that revealed extensive prior reconnaissance. She wasn't randomly searching for valuable items. She was executing a detailed plan that targeted specific locations where Colin stored his most sensitive materials. In his home office, Anna bypassed obvious targets like expensive electronics and artwork, instead focusing on filing cabinets that contained Triton Technologies' legal documents. She photographed contracts with government agencies, partnership agreements with international corporations, and confidential correspondence with Pentagon officials. But the most disturbing discovery came when Anna accessed Colin's personal computer network. Using equipment that definitely violated federal laws regarding unauthorized electronic surveillance, Anna connected to Colin's home server and began systematically copying terabytes of data. The theft included not just business files, but personal communications with other tech executives, private emails discussing industry mergers, and confidential reports about vulnerabilities in competitor company systems. Colin realized that Anna wasn't just stealing from him. She was harvesting intelligence that could compromise dozens of other high-profile individuals and companies throughout Silicon Valley. The scope of the operation was staggering. Through a security system's audio monitoring, Colin could hear Anna making quiet phone calls between her cleaning activities. She spoke in rapid Spanish, reporting her progress to someone who responded with detailed instructions about which materials to prioritize. Colin's Spanish was limited, but he caught enough key phrases to understand that Anna was receiving real-time guidance from handlers who possessed detailed knowledge about Triton's operations and Colin's personal habits. This wasn't a freelance operation. Anna was part of a sophisticated network with resources that suggested government backing or involvement by a major foreign intelligence service. The most chilling moment came when Colin heard Anna say, "El objetivo no sospecha nada. Proceder con la phase final mañana por la noche." The target suspects nothing. I'll proceed with the final phase tomorrow night. Colin's blood ran cold. Whatever Anna had stolen tonight was just the beginning. She was planning something much bigger for the following evening, and Colin was completely unprepared for what that might involve. But Anna's biggest mistake came when she returned to Colin's bedroom for one final sweep. Moving with the same professional precision she'd shown earlier, Anna approached areas she hadn't fully explored during her initial search. She found Colin's emergency safe, a hidden compartment behind a false wall that contained his most valuable backup drives. These drives weren't decoys or controlled exposure materials. They contained the actual source code for Triton's most advanced artificial intelligence systems, including algorithms that the Department of Defense had classified as critical national security assets. Colin watched in horror as Anna photographed drive serial numbers and used her sophisticated equipment to create bit-for-bit copies of data that represented 15 years of his life's work. The intellectual property Anna was stealing in real time was worth more than most countries' annual GDP. But what happened next would haunt Colin for months afterward. Anna discovered a document that Colin had never intended for anyone else to see, his personal notes about vulnerabilities in the U.S. power grid that Triton had identified during a classified government contract. The information detailed exactly how cyber attacks could disable electrical systems across entire regions, potentially affecting millions of people. Anna spent nearly 30 minutes photographing every page of Colin's analysis, including his recommendations for preventing such attacks. She was stealing both the vulnerabilities and the defenses, giving her handlers a complete blueprint for conducting devastating cyber warfare against American infrastructure. Colin realized that he wasn't just facing corporate espionage or even traditional intelligence gathering. Anna was participating in an operation that could threaten national security on a massive scale. The betrayal felt personal in ways Colin had never experienced. Anna had entered his most private space, violated his trust, and stolen information that could endanger millions of innocent people. She'd done it all while maintaining the facade of a grateful employee who was thankful for the opportunity he'd given her. From his hidden position, Colin could see Anna's face as she worked. There was no trace of the nervous, humble woman who had interviewed for a housekeeping position. The person systematically looting his bedroom moved with cold efficiency, showing no emotional connection to the man whose life she was destroying. Anna's final act in Colin's bedroom revealed the true sophistication of her mission. She planted 3 microscopic surveillance devices in locations that would give her handlers permanent access to Colin's most private conversations. The devices were virtually undetectable, designed to transmit audio and data to remote locations without triggering standard security sweeps. Colin understood that even after Anna disappeared, the intelligence operation against him would continue indefinitely. His bedroom, office, and personal spaces will remain compromised until he could identify and remove equipment that might take months to discover. But Anna had made one crucial error that would ultimately lead to her downfall. In her confidence about Colin's unconscious state, she had become careless about concealing her activities from his advanced security systems. Every device she'd used, every file she'd accessed, and every conversation she conducted had been recorded by monitoring equipment that Anna didn't know existed. Colin now possessed comprehensive evidence of Anna's real identity, her handlers' voices, and the specific intelligence she'd stolen. He had enough proof to involve federal law enforcement and potentially expose an entire espionage network operating throughout Silicon Valley. As Anna finally completed her systematic theft and prepared to leave Colin's bedroom for what she believed would be the last time, Colin faced the most important decision of his career. He could maintain his cover and continue gathering intelligence about Anna's network, potentially discovering other infiltrated executives and preventing future attacks. Or he could act immediately to prevent Anna from passing stolen materials to her handlers, risking the exposure of his own surveillance activities. Either choice involved massive risks with consequences that could affect not just Colin's company, but national security interests that extended far beyond his personal concerns. Colin remained motionless in his closet as Anna gathered her equipment and moved toward the door. Her footsteps were confident and quiet, those of someone who believed she'd successfully completed the most important mission of her career. What Anna didn't realize was that she just declared war on a billionaire who had built his entire empire on staying several steps ahead of people trying to destroy what he created. The game was about to change in ways that neither Anna nor her handlers could have anticipated. Colin didn't sleep that night. By 3:47 a.m., he had assembled the most comprehensive intelligence dossier of his life, documenting every aspect of Anna's infiltration and theft. Years of running a cybersecurity company had taught him that evidence without context was useless. He needed to understand not just what Anna had stolen, but who she was working for and how extensive their operation had become. The first breakthrough came from analyzing Anna's phone communications. Colin's enhanced audio monitoring had captured her conversations with her handlers, and while his Spanish was limited, Triton Technologies employed several bilingual security specialists who could provide detailed translations. What they revealed was far worse than Colin had imagined. Anna wasn't just reporting to one handler. She was part of a coordinated network targeting multiple Silicon Valley executives simultaneously. Her conversations referenced Target Alpha, Target Beta, and Target Charlie, suggesting that Colin was just one of several high-value individuals under surveillance. The operation scope was staggering. By cross-referencing timestamps from Anna's phone calls with Colin's personal calendar, his security team discovered that her handlers possessed detailed knowledge of Colin's schedule, travel plans, and private meetings. Someone with access to Triton's internal systems had been feeding information to Anna's network for months, possibly years. Colin realized that the infiltration of his household was just one component of a much larger intelligence operation that had compromised his company from multiple angles. The second major discovery came from analyzing the sophisticated equipment Anna had used during her theft. The electronic lockpicks, data copying devices, and surveillance equipment Anna employed weren't available through commercial channels. Colin's contacts in federal law enforcement confirmed that the technology matched equipment used by state-sponsored intelligence services, particularly those operated by nations with advanced cyber warfare capabilities. This wasn't corporate espionage. It was foreign intelligence gathering targeting American technology assets that were critical to national defense. Colin's investigation revealed that Anna's true identity was far different from her employment application. The woman calling herself Anna Marquez had entered the United States 18 months earlier on a student visa, supposedly to study hospitality management at a community college in San Antonio. But Anna had never attended classes. Instead, she'd spent those months establishing a false identity, creating employment history with carefully coached references, and positioning herself to infiltrate high-value targets throughout the technology sector. Her real name was likely Ana Valdez, and according to federal databases, she had connections to intelligence services operating out of several countries known for aggressive cyber espionage against American corporations. The most disturbing revelation came when Colin's security team analyzed the specific files Anna had targeted during her theft. She hadn't randomly stolen valuable information. She precisely extracted data that would allow foreign governments to replicate Triton's most advanced defense systems, while simultaneously identifying vulnerabilities they could exploit in attacks against American infrastructure. The stolen power grid analysis was particularly concerning. Colin had developed those vulnerability assessments under a classified contract with the Department of Homeland Security, and the information Anna had photographed could enable cyber attacks that would leave millions of Americans without electricity, water, or communication systems. But Anna's handlers had made one critical error that would ultimately expose their entire operation. During her phone conversations, Anna had mentioned specific details about other targets that allowed Colin's team to identify patterns in the broader intelligence network. References to the pharmaceutical executive in San Diego and the aerospace contractor in Los Angeles gave Colin enough information to contact other potential victims and warn them about the infiltration threat. What Colin discovered through those conversations shocked even his paranoid expectations. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, CEO of a major biotechnology firm in San Diego, had recently fired her personal chef after discovering unauthorized access to her home computer network. The chef, who had worked for Dr. Martinez for 8 months, had been systematically copying research data related to biological defense systems. James Patterson, an aerospace executive in Los Angeles, had caught his housekeeper photographing classified documents related to satellite defense technologies. The housekeeper had disappeared before Patterson could question her, taking with her information that could compromise multiple military satellite systems. Colin realized that Anna's network had infiltrated at least a dozen high-profile targets throughout California, systematically stealing technology and intelligence that represented billions of dollars in research and development while compromising critical national security assets. The operation represented the most successful foreign intelligence penetration of American technology leadership in decades. But Colin's investigation revealed an even more troubling dimension to conspiracy. Anna's handlers weren't just collecting stolen information. They were coordinating with compromised employees inside the target companies to maximize their intelligence gathering. The operation combined external infiltration through household staff with internal betrayal by employees who had been recruited, blackmailed, or coerced into cooperation. Colin's analysis of Triton's personnel records revealed at least 3 employees with access to classified systems who had exhibited suspicious behavior patterns over the previous year. Financial records showed unexplained income, travel to countries known for intelligence operations, and communication patterns that suggested coordination with external handlers. The infiltration of Colin's company was far more extensive than he'd realized. Anna's household espionage was just a visible component of a comprehensive intelligence operation that had compromised Triton Technologies from multiple directions simultaneously. Colin faced a terrible realization. Stopping Anna wouldn't end the threat. Her network had embedded assets throughout Silicon Valley's most critical companies, and exposing one operative would likely cause the others to disappear before they could be identified and neutralized. But Colin had one crucial advantage that Anna's handlers couldn't have anticipated. His position as a cybersecurity expert gave him relationships with federal law enforcement agencies, intelligence services, and government officials who possessed the resources to conduct the kind of comprehensive counterintelligence operation required to neutralize such a sophisticated threat. Colin's decision to involve federal authorities would transform his personal betrayal into a national security investigation with implications that extended far beyond his own company. But first, he needed to ensure that Anna didn't disappear before federal agents could apprehend her and use her knowledge to expose the broader network. Colin's strategic mind calculated the risks and benefits of multiple approaches. He could confront Anna directly and risk alerting her handlers. He could maintain surveillance while federal authorities prepared to move against the entire network. Or he could set a trap that would force Anna to reveal information about her handlers while federal agents listened to every word. The choice Colin made would determine whether Anna's infiltration marked the beginning or the end of the most dangerous intelligence operation Silicon Valley had ever faced. What Colin didn't know was that Anna's final phase, scheduled for the following evening, involved more than just additional theft. Her handlers had instructed her to plant sophisticated malware directly into Triton's core systems, potentially giving foreign intelligence services permanent access to every classified project Colin's company would ever develop. The stakes were about to become even higher than Colin could have imagined. By 6 a.m. the morning after Anna's theft, Colin was sitting across from Special Agent Marcus Keene of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division in a secure conference room at the San Francisco Federal Building. Agent Keene was a 20-year veteran of investigating foreign intelligence operations against American technology companies. His reputation for dismantling sophisticated espionage networks had made him the Bureau's go-to specialist for Silicon Valley cases involving state-sponsored corporate theft. "Mr. Drayton," Keene said after reviewing Colin's evidence, "what you've documented here represents one of the most comprehensive foreign intelligence operations we've seen targeting American technology assets. The level of coordination and resources involved suggests involvement by a major foreign intelligence service." Colin had made his decision during the sleepless night following Anna's theft. Rather than risk alerting Anna's handlers by confronting her directly, he would provide federal authorities with everything needed to neutralize the entire network while it was still operational. The FBI's response was swift and decisive. Within 12 hours, Agent Keene had assembled a joint task force, including the FBI, CIA, Department of Homeland Security, and National Security Agency. Colin's evidence provided the foundation for what would become Operation Silicon Shield, a comprehensive counterintelligence operation targeting foreign espionage networks throughout the technology sector. But the immediate challenge was preventing Anna from executing her final phase, while federal agents prepared to move against her broader network. Colin returned to his mansion that afternoon, acting completely normal while FBI surveillance teams positioned themselves throughout his property. Hidden cameras and audio monitoring equipment would capture every aspect of Anna's planned activities, providing evidence that could be used to prosecute not just Anna, but her entire handler network. The psychological pressure of maintaining his usual routine while knowing that federal agents were listening to his every conversation was unlike anything Colin had experienced in business. But his strategic mind understood that one night of discomfort could prevent years of continued infiltration. Anna arrived for work at her regular time, showing no indication that she suspected Colin's awareness of her real identity. She cleaned the house with the same professional efficiency she'd displayed for weeks, maintaining perfect cover for whatever activities she had planned for the evening. But Anna had no idea that her every move was being monitored by some of the most advanced surveillance technology the federal government possessed. At 9:47 p.m., Anna began her final operation. Using equipment that definitely hadn't been part of her initial housekeeping supplies, Anna attempted to plant sophisticated malware directly into Colin's home computer network. The malware was designed to provide her handlers with permanent access to Triton Technologies' most classified systems, potentially compromising every government contract Colin's company would ever receive. But federal cybersecurity specialists had anticipated this move, isolating Colin's network while allowing Anna to believe her infiltration was successful. Every piece of malware Anna installed was immediately analyzed, providing investigators with detailed intelligence about the foreign technology being used against American targets. Anna's phone conversations with her handlers that night provided federal agents with the final pieces of evidence needed to identify and locate the entire espionage network. Her reports about successful malware installation triggered responses from her handlers that revealed their locations, communication methods, and plans for targeting additional Silicon Valley executives. The trap Colin had helped set was working perfectly. At 11:23 p.m., as Anna prepared to leave Colin's property for what she believed to be the last time, federal agents moved simultaneously against targets throughout California and several other states. Anna was arrested in Colin's driveway while carrying evidence of her theft and sabotage activities. Her handlers were apprehended at safe houses in Los Angeles, Seattle, and Phoenix. 3 compromised employees at Triton Technologies were taken into custody along with infiltrators at 6 other major technology companies. Operation Silicon Shield resulted in the largest counterintelligence success against foreign technology theft in FBI history. But the personal cost to Colin was enormous. The investigation revealed that Anna's infiltration had compromised not just his business secrets, but intimate details about his personal life, family relationships, and private communications. The violation of his most private spaces would require months of security upgrades and psychological recovery. Colin's first priority was ensuring that no trace of Anna's infiltration remained in his home or company. He hired Marcus Keene, who retired from the FBI 6 months after Operation Silicon Shield completion, to lead Triton Technologies' new internal security division. Keene's team conducted comprehensive sweeps that identified and removed 17 surveillance devices Anna had planted throughout Colin's property. They also discovered that Anna's network had gained access to Colin's personal communications, financial records, and family information that extended the violation far beyond business espionage. The security upgrades Colin implemented transformed his home into what cybersecurity experts called the most secure private residence in Silicon Valley. Every room featured multiple layers of electronic monitoring. All household staff underwent extensive background investigations that included polygraph testing, and new protocols required federal security clearance for anyone with access to Colin's personal spaces. But the psychological impact proved more difficult to address than the technical vulnerabilities. Colin's ability to trust people who worked in his home had been permanently damaged. The woman who had seemed so grateful for the opportunity to work for him had systematically betrayed his trust while stealing technology that could endanger millions of Americans. 6 months after Anna's arrest, Colin decided to share his experience at a closed-door conference of Silicon Valley executives organized by the FBI. His presentation, titled "The Enemy in Your Home," became required viewing for corporate security professionals throughout the technology industry. The most sophisticated threats don't come through your firewalls or security systems. Colin told the audience of CEOs and security directors. They come through your front door with a resume and a smile, and they spend months earning your trust before they destroy everything you've built. Colin's experience led to fundamental changes in how high-profile executives approached household security. Background investigation companies that specialize in domestic staff placements implemented new protocols that included polygraph testing, financial monitoring, and ongoing surveillance of employees with access to sensitive environments. As for Ana Marquez, her fate remained largely classified due to national security considerations. Federal prosecutors charged her with espionage, computer fraud, and conspiracy to commit sabotage against critical infrastructure. But Anna's cooperation with federal investigators, providing detailed information about foreign intelligence operations targeting American technology companies, resulted in a plea agreement that kept most details of her case sealed from public disclosure. What became public was that Anna's real identity was Ana Valdez, a trained intelligence operative who had infiltrated the United States as part of a multi-year operation targeting critical technology assets. Her network had successfully stolen billions of dollars worth of intellectual property from American companies while compromising national security systems that protected millions of citizens. Ana disappeared into the federal witness protection system after providing testimony that led to the exposure and neutralization of additional foreign intelligence operations throughout the technology sector. But her betrayal of Colin's trust left permanent scars that no amount of security upgrades could heal. 2 years after Anna's arrest, Colin reflected on how the experience had changed his approach to both business and personal relationships. The incident had reinforced his belief that success always created vulnerabilities that required constant vigilance to address. Money can buy security systems and background checks, Colin told a journalist who was writing about corporate espionage. But it can't buy peace of mind. Once you've been betrayed by someone you trusted in your own home, you never feel completely safe again. The story of Anna's infiltration became a case study used by federal law enforcement agencies to train investigators about the sophisticated methods foreign intelligence services use to target American technology leaders. But for Colin, it remained a deeply personal reminder that in a world where information was more valuable than gold, trust had become the most dangerous luxury anyone could afford. Colin Drayton's story isn't just about a billionaire who caught his maid stealing secrets. It's about something far more universal: the price of success, and the dangerous illusion that wealth can protect us from the most human of all vulnerabilities, betrayal. Think about your own life for a moment. How many people do you trust with access to your most private spaces? Your home cleaner, your babysitter, the repair technician who comes to fix your appliances, the neighbor who waters your plants when you're away? We all make these trust decisions every day, and most of the time, that trust is rewarded with honest service and respect for our privacy. But Colin's experience reveals a truth that applies whether you're worth $3 billion or 3,000. The people closest to our daily lives often have the power to hurt us most. The first lesson from Colin's ordeal is that intuition shouldn't be ignored, especially when it comes to trusting people with access to our personal spaces. Colin's gut instincts warned him about Anna long before he had concrete evidence of her betrayal. Those small inconsistencies, items moved slightly, documents shuffled differently, cash handled but not stolen, were his subconscious mind recognizing patterns that his logical brain couldn't yet explain. How many times have you had that nagging feeling about someone, only to dismiss it because you couldn't articulate what was bothering you? Colin's story shows that our instincts often perceive threats that our conscious minds haven't processed yet. But the most powerful lesson from Colin's experience goes deeper than just trusting your gut. Success, whether measured in dollars or achievements, creates a paradox that most people never consider. The more successful you become, the more you need other people's help to maintain that success. But needing help means trusting others with access to the very things that made you successful in the first place. Colin needed household staff to maintain his lifestyle, but that staff required access to spaces where he stored his most valuable secrets. He needed employees to run his company, but those employees had to be trusted with technology worth billions of dollars. This paradox exists at every level of success. The restaurant owner who trusts employees with cash registers and inventory. The small business owner who gives assistants access to customer databases. The professional who hires a cleaning service that works in their home office. We all face versions of Colin's dilemma. How do you grow and succeed while protecting what you built? The answer isn't paranoia or isolation. Colin's mistake wasn't trusting Anna. It was not implementing systems that would verify whether that trust was deserved. Think about how we approach other areas of risk in our lives. We buy insurance for our cars and homes because we know accidents happen, even to careful people. We use passwords and security systems because we know theft occurs, even in safe neighborhoods. But when it comes to the people we invite into our personal and professional lives, we often rely on hope rather than verification. Colin's story teaches us that smart trust requires ongoing verification, not just initial background checks. After Anna's betrayal, Colin didn't stop trusting people entirely. Instead, he created systems that made betrayal much more difficult to accomplish and much easier to detect. He still needed household staff, but now they worked within security protocols that protected both Colin's interests and the staff members' reputations. This approach applies to every level of personal and professional relationships. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being smart. If you hire someone to work in your home, check their references carefully and trust your instincts if something feels wrong. If you're building a business, create systems that prevent any single employee from having too much unsupervised access to critical assets. But Colin's experience also teaches us something profound about the nature of wealth and power that applies to all of us, regardless of our net worth. Money amplifies both opportunities and vulnerabilities. Colin's billions gave him resources to live comfortably and build an amazing company. But those same billions made him a target for sophisticated threats that most people never face. This principle scales to every level of success. The more you have, the more attractive you become to people who want to take what you built. But the more you have, the more resources you also possess to protect yourself, if you use them wisely. Colin's biggest mistake wasn't hiring Anna. It was assuming that his wealth would protect him from basic human threats like deception and betrayal. Here's what Colin learned that applies to all of us. Technology, money, and security systems are just tools. They're incredibly valuable tools, but they can't replace human judgment, situational awareness, and the wisdom to know when something isn't right. The most expensive security system in the world is useless if you don't pay attention to what it's telling you. The most thorough background check can't reveal future intentions. The most sophisticated surveillance equipment can't protect you from threats you're not watching for. But there's a deeper lesson in Colin's story that goes beyond security and trust. Success requires vulnerability. Building anything meaningful, a business, a relationship, a family, a career, means depending on other people. And depending on other people always involves the risk that they might disappoint or betray you. Colin could have responded to Anna's betrayal by becoming completely isolated, trusting no one and doing everything himself. Many people who've been deeply betrayed choose that path. But isolation isn't protection, it's imprisonment. Colin understood that retreating from all human connection would mean giving Anna and her handlers the ultimate victory. They were destroyed not just his security, but his ability to live a meaningful life. Instead, Colin chose what might be called educated trust, maintaining openness to relationships while implementing systems that make betrayal less likely and less damaging when it occurs. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, and most of us have, you understand the temptation to close your heart and never risk that pain again. Colin's story shows us a different path. Learn to trust more intelligently rather than refusing to trust at all. Comment below if this story changed how you think about trust and success, because these lessons apply to every area of our lives. The final lesson from Colin's experience is perhaps the most important. Betrayal teaches us who we really are. Anna's theft could have destroyed Colin's company, compromised national security, and ruined his personal life. But Colin's response to that betrayal revealed his true character. He didn't seek revenge, he sought justice. He didn't just protect himself. He protected other potential victims. He didn't just solve his own problem. He helped solve a national security threat. When someone betrays our trust, we get to choose who we become in response. We can become bitter, paranoid, and isolated, or we can become wiser, more careful, and more committed protecting not just ourselves, but others who might face similar threats. Colin's choice to share his story, hire other betrayal victims, and help federal authorities protect additional targets showed that even the worst betrayals can become opportunities for growth and service. That might be the most universal lesson of all. We can't control whether people will try to betray us, but we can control how we respond when they do. If you found Colin's story valuable, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden truths about success, trust, and the courage it takes to keep building something meaningful even when people try to tear it down. And remember, sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones that money can't buy, but wisdom can't afford to ignore. The next story I'll be sharing involves a tech entrepreneur who discovered that his business partner of 10 years had been systematically stealing from their company while planning to destroy everything they'd built together. You won't believe how he turned the tables on someone he trusted like a brother. Until then, stay smart, stay aware, and remember that true strength isn't avoiding betrayal. It's surviving it and becoming stronger because of what it taught you. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this extraordinary story here on Soul Igniting Story. I truly appreciate you for taking the time to be with us, to open your heart, and to let these words spark something within your soul. Every story we share is crafted to inspire, to uplift, and to remind us all that love, hope, and resilience are alive in every corner of the world. If this story touched you, made you smile, or even brought a little spark of wonder to your day, I would be so grateful if you could show your support. Please give this video a like. It helps more souls discover these stories. Don't forget to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, or even your own experiences connected to the story. Your words make this community come alive. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next beautiful journey we'll be sharing together. Until next time, thank you again for being part of the Soul Igniting Story family, where every story lights a flame within.